You ever buy a cheap copy of something you really want? And you're thinking to yourself, it can't be that bad. Well, sometimes it can. Today we're going to talk about the Harbor Freight throatless shear. They had them on clearance, and I've wanted a Beverly shear for a long time. This is what we got. So it now cuts. It didn't do that when I took it out of the box. Basically, the bolts were loose enough. They left the bolts had to be loosened up to the point that the thing was all wiggly because the knives were touching and you couldn't actually adjust the knives out. So let me take this thing apart and let's have a chat. Kind of been the story of this whole project. Trying to keep track of it. So when I said this thing was so loose, or it had to be so loose to operate, this is what I'm talking about. To make this whole thing work, these bolts had to be really loose so this knife would clear this knife. All right. Well, we'll start with this animal. All right, so all of this grinding you see right here and this groove that's cut right here, I didn't do that. Apparently, you know, when they were making this, they decided that this was all in the way and that was in the way. However, the flashing here in this corner, they didn't seem too concerned about that. Now what that did, and I've ground on it, but basically what they did at the factory was they cut this out. I think you can see that. They just cut this edge back so that it would clear the flashing that was in this corner. I'm the one that rounded this because in the end, I spent a fair amount of time with this Dremel tool grinding this flashing out of this corner. Until that time, you couldn't get this thing far enough over. Now, I've got the set screw out right there because once I got it cleaned up, you can see this edge is all flush against the base, but this edge comes out. Now that's where they actually cut the knife to fit this casting because they didn't cut that flashing out. The other piece was this top edge was up here, you know, like 3/16 of an inch. This top edge wasn't square. So by the time I got this top edge square and I got that, I got that flashing cut out of there, it left a gap, which isn't a big deal. That's what these set screws are for. The other issue was, you know, they went to the trouble to grind this edge. The problem was they didn't grind it straight. So lots of filing later, it's pretty straight on there. That all said, you know, given they had to go through all those shenanigans, that means the edge of this knife was a long ways from being, you know, straight and true. Now, this actually does appear to be a hardened metal. Not very pretty, but it does appear to be some hardened metal. You can see right here where they were grinding to clearance all of the flashing from this area. So, again, a long time with a file. And I gotta admit, I started out with something a little more aggressive than a file. But at some point, I got it where it fit in there. So I thought, we're on a downhill slide now. So I started trying to fit the other pieces. So this is, you know, this is what holds the other half of the knife. Oh my. When I started looking at this casting, there was a huge hump, kind of right across here. I'm like, okay. You can sort of see there's a boss right here and sort of up here. It kind of fades away to nothing. But you can sort of see that this area is going to ride on that boss. And, you know, up in here is going to ride on this boss. The problem was that hump was so big that this rocked. So, a lot of grinding later, and I really did. I took a grinder to it. And we got this thing pretty flat. Before it was up about 3/16 of an inch. So we got that flat. And once again, I'm like, okay. Oh, we got the bull by the horns here. Then started looking at this knife, and the holes aren't lined up. When I pulled out these little countersunk screws that hold the knife on, these screws were in there in all kinds of crazy angles. Right? The holes don't match. And it got worse when I cleaned that edge there and made it straight again. Now the hole, if they didn't match before, they sure don't match now. So, you know, I just took my chainsaw file and opened the holes up. That kind of means that the countersinking don't work anymore. Which is why I got these hex screws in there. In the end, this back edge wasn't straight either. So once I straightened that up, I had to go back and file that up, which just exasperated the whole problem. The HOLE problem. So, got them opened up. Ended up using, you know, little hex heads with flat washers. So you might ask, you know, you might be asking, well, okay, the bolts clamp and this keeps them going back. What's the chance that it's going to slide on there? Well, I think that's a possibility, but it is curved, right? And there is a lot of friction. So we're going to have to live with it. I don't know of any way. Basically, I need to get a new set of knives, which probably, you know, if I get replacement knives for a Beverly or something else, I don't think these holes are going to line up. So I think I'm going to end up with in the same place I am right now. So we got this edge fitting this. Now we're happy. Turns out I had to run a threader down these holes because they were only threaded, I don't know, maybe 3/16 of an inch. Not much. So, and it turns out they didn't actually drill the holes. all the way through. So, well, actually, they drilled a pilot hole. They just didn't put the tap through it was difficult. So, at this point, I've got the knife that fits on, that fits on the arm. So I bolt it together, and I bet you can't guess. The knives hit each other. So when you put this thing down in here, let me put this back together. All right. After all of that work, to make this, fit against there, get the knives to fit, after all of that shenanigans, when I went to put it together, the knives hit each other. So when everything was adjusted, or when everything actually was bolted together, oh, I got it in there wrong. There we go. Everything was bolted together, the knives hit. So that took the knife back off and started whittling at the edges. And again, that was a lot of filing. I say this is some hard metal. I'm not going to say it's high quality, but it is pretty hard. So a lot of filing. Every once in a while I get impatient, took a flap disc to it or something, but that's dangerous. You need to be able to you need to file it so you can keep it straight. Okay. All right. So I got it filed where I thought it was pretty good. So I put it back together. Or let's rephrase that. I start to put it together. I did put it together, but it highlights another problem. Let me clamp this together. That shoulder isn't extending past the edge of that base. That means when you tighten up that bolt, you clamp it. You clamp the arm tighter, which means there is no way. And you can't. I guess you could put a lock nut on here, a nylock, but that's not the way it's supposed to work. Given the pieces that they sent with this and my expectation of how it was supposed to work, there's no way to keep these bolts tight. Or keep this bolt tight, which this bolt is what keeps this shear working time after time again. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to be fighting things not working. So let me hold the camera up and let's get some idea. We'll measure it, but let's get some idea of how short this is. Well, that looks like it's about 1/8 of an inch. Let me get some calipers and let's see what we got going on here. All right, let's start with the outside. Well, that's somewhere around 0.93594. So 935, 940. Let's see what the bolt is. Shoulder on the bolt is about 745, 746, somewhere in there. So we got, we'll just call it 940 to 745. So we need to make up about 2/10 of an inch. Well, that's exciting. So our options, we could grind down both sides of these arms. I don't know. It probably wouldn't hurt, but to be honest with you, I'd just as soon leave all the metal on this I could. Given what we've learned up to this point, taking some away is the casting may not be, you know, high quality casting. So I think I'm going to go down the path of trying to find a piece of pipe or something that'll stick in there, or that I can extend this. You know, 2/10 of an inch is a lot. All right, I'm going to go searching, and I'll come back to you. All right, folks. I think at least this stage of the game, I think I got it. I found a 9/16 bolt that was way too long, but had a big shoulder, and I threaded it with a 12 by 175, which is what this is. As I was playing with this, the the interesting thing is, even the holes in this thing aren't the same. Here's the original bolt. So it's loose there. It don't fit too bad right there. So I think that's as good as we're going to make this. Anyway, got the 9/16 bolt. I made the shoulder a little long so that I could adjust it with some washers. I put the washers on there, and then I could adjust where that shoulder goes, and then over time I can change the shims or change the washers, and we can hopefully keep this thing tight. I would have preferred to have a metric bolt, you know, just a factory bolt like that had the shoulder that was close. Anytime you rethread a bolt, like if you run a threader down that bolt, it's not going to thread across that shoulder as nice as you would like it to. All right. Let's see here. Well, that's interesting. It would appear that this surface isn't perpendicular to the hole. Well, the good news is, if we use it, it'll wear in. All right, let's put this together. It would appear that they weren't keen on drilling square holes. But I think we got it at the point now this thing's going to work. I put that in upside down. You guys probably saw that coming, didn't you? All right, that's better. So that bolt, I believe, is shouldered against that bracket. All right, so I put it together up to this point. We need to put the knife back in and see what kind of clearance we got. Anyway, it moves a lot. It's a lot tighter now. Let's see what kind of clearance we got on this thing. Well, we got 16 there. Let's bring that down. We're just going to cut the thin stuff with this, so I don't know. Set it, there's a 12. Let's set it at 12. Seems to be a little tight. Oh, that's pretty good there. This is the problem, child. There's not any wiggle room back here. And we got a tight 10. I think that's what it's going to have to be, because we can't bring it over anymore this way. All right, let me put the clamp on there and see if anything moves when I clamp it. Well, the 10 tightened up there. Oh, I haven't got it over here. That's what the problem is. would appear that this is still a little high right here. So let me get a file out. Let me file on that just a little bit. That's much better. All right, whoops, we're going backwards. Let's see if that's better. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. When I tighten it up, it pushes it over. So something's not square there. It's been raining, or it rained last night. Now it's like 100 degrees. Humidity is high. Mosquitoes. I got the fan off. That was just a little bit too much in the video. Well, that probably doesn't help. It's not flat down there where the clamp goes. Well, it's better. I just don't know if it's enough. Well, we're going to have to fix that thing from moving. Actually, that ain't the problem. Well, that's too tight. We're gonna have to do some more shaping here because there's no more room here. All right. All right. Well, a little bit of grinding. I decided to take it off the backside rather than trying to mess with that edge. So we have the clearance now. The problem is when you tighten this down, it pushes the blade that way. So I got to looking at the clamp. So here's the clamp. The clamp's twisted just a little bit. So I'm going to do some filing on this thing. See if I can get that thing to quit rocking. Well, that's a lot better. Let's see how it looks. The joys of cheap tools sometimes. So it would appear that I'm touching here. I've got a gap here, which makes sense because this thing's kind of cocked. But I'm going to take some metal off the top of this so that this thing will set more square. All right, I've done a lot of grinding and shaping. I think I got it. Let's see what we got. We're gonna see what we got. All right, that's 12. I got 14 right there. Looks like I got 15 there. That's about 15. That's about 11 there. So looks like this knife's got just a little bit of a shape to it there. All that said, Let's see if it works. We'll try the thin stuff. The bigger gap should make it harder to do this. Close that gap up. I'm going to try to cheat the gap. See if I can close the gap up. I think that'll work. I think that'll work, folks. All right, folks. I think we have a workable throatless shear here. Now, the question in everyone's mind is, I suspect, is was it worth it? Yeah, I don't know. I think all the offshore shears are the same. And they're not a Beverly, right? I think this is like a Beverly B1. And Mittler Brothers is selling the Beverly B1, I think, for $725. So there is a significant difference between a Beverly and an offshore. However, if you buy from what I'm going to call a reputable reseller, and that's being too critical of Harbor Freight. But if you buy from Eastwood's or somebody like that, I think they double quality check. So they buy these things, they ship them over, then they check them out before they ship them to you. That would be my suspicion. If they don't, yeah, shame on them. But if they do, $249 or $299, whatever it is, and I think Bailey sells this one, and Woodward Fab, and I think everybody's kind of got one of these things. If they do the quality check up front, and you get one that's got a good casting on it, and one that truly has replaceable blades, then $250, $300. That ain't a bad deal, because I've got 6 or 7 hours in this to make it do what it was doing, because it wouldn't do anything when I pulled it out of the box. All right, well, I don't want to rag on Harbor Freight. I've bought a lot of stuff from them over the years, but this is one of those things that unless you just like tinkering with stuff, I think I might try someone else. Okay, well, I think that's all we got time for today. If you've subscribed, I appreciate it. If you're still watching at this point, I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We try to have a lot of fun around here. Give it a like, hit the bell, And until next time, I'm Random at Random Rod Shop, and we're out of here.